These names, Mulholland and Temple, somehow in some peculiar way, appear to be sort of connected together as though they were both famous for the same sort of thing. Billy still felt that the two names, that is Mr. Mulholland's and Mr. Temple, were somehow connected to each other. He could somewhat recall that their names appeared together for the same cause. How amusing, she said. Come here now, dear, and have a nice cup of tea here. The landlady now invites Billy to come and have a cup of tea. He stood by the piano watching her. He noticed that she had small, white, quickly moving hands and red fingernails. Billy was standing by the piano and started watching her. He noticed that she had small hands and red fingernails. I am almost positive that they were in the newspapers, Billy said. Billy told the landlady that he was almost confirmed that the names appeared in the newspaper. Billy said so. There is nothing more tantalizing than a thing like this that lingers just outside the borders of one's memory. It is very tempting when one tries to recall the thing, but it just could not be recollected and stays just outside the border of someone's thought. Now, wait a minute, he said. Christopher Mulholland was not that the name of the Eton schoolboy who was on a walking tour and then all of a sudden, milk, she said, and sugar. Billy suddenly recalls where he had heard Christopher Mulholland's name and asked if it was the name of the Eton School's boy who was on a walking tour. But the landlady interrupts him and asked him how much milk and sugar need to be added in his tea. Eton schoolboy, she said, oh no, my dear, that can't possibly be right because Mr. Mulholland was a Cambridge undergraduate. Come on, your tea is all ready for you. The landlady said, Billy, that Mulholland could not be a schoolboy from Eton. Instead, she was an undergraduate student from the Cambridge University. She also insisted Billy to come and have his tea as it was all ready for him. Billy started sipping his tea for half a minute or so. Neither of them spoke. Billy knew that she was looking at him. He could feel her eyes resting on his face, watching him over the rim of her teacup. Now and again he caught a whiff of a peculiar smell that seemed to emit it directly from her. Pickled walnuts, new leather, or was it the corridors of a hospital? Billy started to have his cup of tea, and for a few seconds there was absolute silence between the two. Billy very well knew that the landlady was looking at him. He could feel as if the eyes of the landlady were resting on his face and fixed over there, watching him over the edge of her teacup. As Billy was sipping the tea, he could experience a strange smell. He was wondering if the smell was of pickled walnuts or new leather, or if it was the smell from the corridors of a hospital. Mr. Mulholland loved his tea. The landlady said that Mr. Mulholland was very fond of the tea that was served by the landlady. I suppose he left fairly recently, Billy said. Billy said that he feels that Mulholland had left recently from the bed and breakfast. She said, arching her brows, "My dear boy, he never left. He is still here. Mr. Temple is also here. They are on the fourth floor, both of them together." When Billy said the land that he predicts that Mr. Mulholland might have left the bed and breakfast recently, the landlady confirms that Mr. Temple and Mr. Mulholland are still in the fourth floor of the house. Billy stared at his landlady. She smiled back at him and asked, "How old are you, my dear?" Hearing the remark of the landlady, Billy was very puzzled and kept staring at his landlady. The landlady questions him how old Billy was. 17. Billy answered that he was 17 years old. Mr. Mulholland was also 17. Mr. Temple, of course, was 28. And yet I never would have guessed it if he had not told me there was not a blemish on his body. His skin was just like a baby's. The landlady said Billy that Mr. Mulholland's age was also 17, whereas the age of Mr. Temple was 28. But the landlady could not guess it until Mr. Temple had told it himself to the landlady. As his skin was very soft, like a baby, without any mark or spot on his body. She seemed to have lapsed into another of her silence. Then she again took a long pause and moved into another thought in deep silence.